Good morning. My name is Tanya and I am the owner of Priority Pumping. So thank you for watching this video today on how to read an ADEQ septic inspection. I'm going to go through one that has already been done by our company, and I'm going to explain to you what each line means inside of this inspection report. An ADEQ report of inspection can be somewhat confusing because it does talk a lot about industry jargon and words that you might not even know what the heck it's even talking about. So it is my job today to walk you through that. So let's get started with this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Let's see. Okay. All right, so here is an inspection report. This is what you should get from your inspector when you get an inspection completed. It is called an ADEQ, or ADEQ, stands for Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, in case you wanted to know that. Report of inspection. Sometimes this is referred to as a septic inspection report, a septic certification. If you're looking for, sometimes we have real estate agents that will call us and say, looking for that septic certification. This is the certification. Okay, this is what you're looking for. This is what you need. Okay, so we're going to scroll down through this. This has a lot of different kinds of legal jargon. If you want to read through that, fantastic. I'm more interested in this right here. A qualified inspector inspects the facility within 6 months before property transfer. Qualified inspector means someone that has went to inspector training and holds their own inspection certification number. That's a qualified inspector. The organization that does all of this training is called NAWT, N-A-W-T, stands for National Association of Wastewater Technicians. I am actually on that education board, so I know all about this stuff. Everybody that works in the septic industry that is providing an inspection should be individually certified, not the owner of the company, not one person that signs off, everyone. At Priority Pumping, I take this very seriously. I actually have my entire office staff even go through this training because I want everyone to be well equipped and well versed in what this inspection process is so that they can talk shop with everyone. So another important part of this is that it's within 6 months. That means that this inspection report is good for 6 months. So you want to make sure that you are getting this done pretty please as soon as you possibly can. As soon as you know you're going to sell your house, especially if you're in Arizona, get this inspection done because houses are selling like hotcakes here. And we have so many real estate agents, bless their hearts, that will call us and say, I'm closing tomorrow, or I'm closing at the end of the week. I need a septic inspection. And everyone is so busy right now that like we're 2 weeks out. So we want to make sure that we can get you taken care of properly. And another thing to note is just because the tank is flushing or the toilet is flushing in the house and the water's going down, doesn't necessarily mean that that septic system is in good working order. That septic system could be full of roots, could have cracks in it, could have all kinds of different things that's going to make it not pass the inspection, or that it's going to come back not functional. Some of these repairs or replacement systems require permitting that at this time with our county is taking about 3 months to get completed because let's face it, it is a really hot market here right now. So make sure that you're doing that as soon as possible to avoid any bumps or delays in your closing or your sales. The older the home, I would say that the more urgent this 6 months before truly is. Truly is important. Okay, so inspector completes the report of inspection and gives it to the seller. My guys fill out paperwork outside in the field, then they come back and we type it up really nice and pretty for you and send it together in an email in one package so you can forward it on to whoever you need to. The next step is that the seller gives this report of inspection to the buyer or the seller's agent to the buyer's agent. And at this point, if there's any repairs that need to be done, this is where we're talking about needing to have negotiations as to who's going to take care of that. Now in Arizona, there is a wastewater addendum that is signed that does state that if there are repairs that need to be made, typically it's up to 1% of the purchase price is the responsibility of the seller. So if you have a $600,000 house, $6,000 would be the required amount up to $6,000 that you had to pay. And at that point afterwards, it's a negotiation. Now, there are different ways of signing things. There are different ways of doing things. I understand that. So if you have questions about that, please talk to your real estate agent and they can guide you through it. The buyer submits notice of transfer with fee to applicable agency within 15 days after the property transfer. This last step is just submitting a notice of transfer, which is like moving the ownership of the septic system from the current owner to the new owner that is buying the house through the county. And this is typically taken care of with your title company when they do all of the closing documents. Okay, so that's the title page. So now we're going to get into the, as we call it from Wyoming, meat and potatoes of the septic inspection report. This is the report of inspection, page 1. Number 1 is called property information. This is all the information about the property. We consult Maricopa or Pinal County Assessor's website when we are doing this research. So that is where we get this tax parcel number. This is important because this is what it is filed under with the county. There are inspections I've seen come back from other companies that they don't even do any of this research. That is an incomplete report. So if you're saying that, demand more. It's free information. Number 2, current owner's information. This is whoever is on the deed with the assessor's website is what we put in there. Number 3 is the inspector's information. So who is it that came out to do the inspection? Again, not the owner of the company or the one guy that the company paid to go get the certification for. Everyone should be individually certified that is coming out there. So Keith is one of our awesome inspectors, and over here is where his certification number shows up. They all have an ITC on the end of them. They should be 5 digits. You can look them up on nawt.org. If you're looking for an inspector number, that's where you can find that. Here's all of our company information if anyone needs to get a hold of us in regards to this inspection. The inspector qualifications. So number 4 is talking about where did Keith take this coursework? So he actually came on board in January of 2021, and we all know that that was COVID time. So unfortunately, he didn't get to have a butts in the seat course. He had to do an online course, but it was done fabulously. Again, that was not inspector training, and an online course was completed there. Then letter B is license or registration. So not only do you have to be certified through NOT, you have to have some form of license to be able to do this. And licenses can be any of these things here. Typically, you will see this one because that is someone who he works for an owner of a septic truck that has this septic hauler license, and that is the company's license. You may see down here too that it's a licensed contractor, that if it's a plumbing company and they don't have pump trucks, they would have something like this, okay? So number 5 is documents consulted. Right here, when it's talking about facility permit, construction, operational records, it's all just fancy words for, is there a permit for this system? That is also public record. If you go to our ADEQ Septic Inspections page on our website at prioritypumpingaz.com, you can get the link and you can look up everything. If you're a real estate agent, this is a great thing to have if you sell a lot of properties on septic, because you can look them up and tell them exactly what kind of system they have and where it's located at, as many people don't know where their systems are, believe it or not. Or if you would like us to do that, that's a free service that we will go ahead and do for you too over the phone, and then we can email it to you. This property does have a septic record, which is why it is checked yes. Now, A and B is literally the difference of, was it built, put in before January 1, 2001, or was put in after, excuse me, or before January 2001. After, they're called discharge authorizations. Prior to 2001, they're called approval to construct. Now, these guys have approval to construct still, but the discharge authorization means it was inspected by the county and they have permission to actually discharge wastewater into the system and actually use it. So there's a little bit of verbiage stuff that changed during that period of time. Literally the same thing, permit, okay? So there was no permit after January 1, but there was a permit prior to. And this, the file number is the permit number. And then here is the permit number. Typically the first 2 digits will signify what year it was put in. And again, over here is the date of the permit. And yes, it was February 12th, 1993. So letter C is site plan. Is there an as-built drawing? Does it show us where the septic system is located at? And yes, there is a map here. So what does that look like? I'm going to show you what the records for this property actually look like. Okay, let's zoom out here a little bit. Okay, so this is a permit from 1993. Every year that you have a permit, they kind of look a little bit different, I'll be honest with you. So this is a little bit older one, but all the information is still on here, okay? That's all handwritten stuff. It was permitted for 3 bedrooms. We can see that here. We can also see in here that the size of septic tank required must be at least a 960 gallon tank, okay? And then down here for the disposal field, it signifies that there is a seepage pit, 1 seepage pit, 3 foot in diameter and 56 feet deep, okay? We'll get into seepage pits here in just a moment. So this is the permit that was issued. Down here, the record of inspection. This is almost more important than the permit page above because it'll tell you exactly what they actually installed because this is an inspection from the inspector. So the septic tank, they installed a 1,000-gallon tank because there is no such thing as a 960-gallon tank. It does tell us that it is a concrete tank here, which is also helpful. It does give some distance measurements. It says it's 11 feet from the foundation. Time out because rarely are those ever true. I don't know what kind of measuring tape they were using back then, but they were rarely true. But it gives you an idea. Seepage pit is a drilled seepage pit. There's one, it's 3 feet wide. And then there is a 59-foot pit that is overall 59 feet, effective depth 54 feet. We'll get into that. Remember, overall effective. We'll touch base on that in a little bit. And then down here on page 3 is the actual map that shows you north arrow here. This is the parcel. And then here is where the septic system is located at in regards to the house. Okay, this is just a 3-page inspection stuff. New inspection or new permits are about 25 pages. So if you have a newer system, don't get freaked out if you get 25 pages. They're supposed to be there. They're much better inclusive of all information that you need now. Okay, on to page number 2. Number 6 is talking about what the water source is. This one is the city water source. You may have private water company, in some areas, shared individual private well or hauled water. You just check which one it is. B, approximate property size. Again, we get this from the county assessor's website. Use of the property, dwelling or other residential. If it's a commercial building that's on septic, this one would be checked, but this one is a house. Letter D, occupancy use. It was vacant at the time of doing the inspection, can be full-time. You'll typically see these 2. If it is a dwelling, meaning residential home, number of bedrooms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or more. Okay, this is a 3-bedroom house. Remember that because we're going to use it for a calculation in a moment. Number of on-site systems in use on the property. That's a fancy word for how many septic systems are there on the property. There's 1. If there's more than 1, say there's a guest house or a garage or maybe a secondary addition that was too far of a run to put a septic system, then this would be indicated here. And then you would put how many septic systems there were. I've seen a place that had 4 systems on it. So word to the wise, little tip on this one too. If you have more than 1, each septic system has to have its own individual report and inspection completed. Okay. Letter E, estimated design flow, 450 gallons per day. Now, that can be calculated a few different ways. Design flow means how much water is going to the septic tank every single day. What's the estimate? So they base that, most often it's based upon, for a dwelling, number of bedrooms times 150 gallons per day per bedroom. Okay, so we have 3 bedrooms times 150. They're saying it's going to, the system with 3 bedrooms is going to average about 450 gallons per day. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, it's got 5, when we say, how big is the house? How many bedrooms and baths? And they'll say, well, it has 5 bathrooms. Okay, but how many bedrooms? And people don't understand why it is factored that way. It's based upon occupancy. So they say about 75 gallons of water per day per person, and they look at the bedrooms as if they could be double occupancy. That's where the 150, 2 times 75 equals 150. 150 times 3 bedrooms gives you the 450 gallons per day. Okay, now remember that because we're going to go to the next one. So on letter F, it talks about the evaluation of actual flow versus the design flow. So the actual flow does not appear to exceed design flow. The design flow is this: a septic tank needs to be at least 2.1 times greater than what this gallons per day shows up. Okay, we have a 1,000-gallon tank that is more than 2.1 times 450 gallons per day. So we're okay. If you have, the only way that these other ones would be checked is sometimes they do remodels and say they've got an original 3-bedroom house that was permitted to a 1,000-gallon system, and then they end up adding 3 more bedrooms, and somehow they've skirted having to upgrade the septic system to accommodate for the extra bedrooms. Then you would see something like this. Then it may exceed the design based upon bedroom count, fixture count, if they added a bunch of bathrooms, or if there's a large number of occupants living inside of the house. Typically, I don't check that, because even if there is here, that's just kind of like one of those things where there's probably not going to be that many the next go around and people are selling this house. It just kind of gives you, it depends. It just depends. I think this is kind of a silly one, but typically you'll see it based upon bedroom count or fixture count, because that is how septic systems are sized. If you want to learn more about that, I can teach you for days on how to size one of these systems, or you can go to our septic installations page. But if you have questions, you're more than welcome to give me a call and I can walk you through things. Letter G is strength of sewage received by an on-site wastewater treatment facility. Basically what this is saying is, does it look like regular sewage inside of the septic tank? Yes. One time I've ever had to do this, anything different, because we went to a house and we opened it and it was red, which indicates that they're definitely cooking meth and putting it down that thing, which was the case. So you just kindly close that up and call the police in that situation. It does ask if there's a garbage disposal, which if we know that, great. If we don't, oh well. Report of inspection, tax parcel number, date of inspection. This should be a header on every single one of these pages. This is broken down into section A and section B. Again, it goes right back up to where we saw in here for the documents consulted. This is the same dates, before January 1, 2001 or after January 1, 2001. And what it's doing is it's breaking down. Okay, so the septic system is composed of 2 parts, the septic tank and the disposal field. So it's asking us to indicate here what is actually installed for this home. So for this home, there's a septic tank and there's a disposal filled by seepage pit. Okay, that's that vertical pit we were talking about. All of this down here is for alternative systems. We could go on for days. We don't have a lot of those in Arizona. If you have questions, give me a call. I will walk you through that. Date of construction, February 12th, 1993, just as the records indicated from the septic record. Letter C, date of last inspection or pumping. Most often we don't know, especially this one, it was vacant. D, repairs or alterations to the system. It was unknown if they've done anything to a disposal field. Is facility currently being serviced under a maintenance contract? We don't know that either. That is not public record. And in the state of Arizona, you don't have to have a maintenance contract on a septic system unless you have an alternative system, and then you have to have a maintenance contract, which is silly because everyone should have to have one. Letter 8, septic tank inspection and pumping information. Now this page here is very important. This is all about just the tank itself, just the tank. Okay, not the disposal field, just the tank. So was the septic tank pumped as part of the inspection? Yes. Now, septic inspections require septic tank pumping because in order to look at all the components that we need to look at to honestly fill out this report, it needs to be cleaned out. It needs to be not full of water and septic waste. It needs to be cleaned out. I mean, how can you see roots on the bottom of a full septic system? You can. Letter A here, if it is checked no, these are the 3 things that is the reason why it wouldn't be. That it was put into service within the last 12 months. It says that it doesn't need to be pumped out yet because some of the alternative systems have different pumping schedules. So that's the only time that would be used is with an alternative system. Or it says no accumulation of floating or settled waste. You will have companies argue like if it's not 30% full of solids, you don't have to pump it. That is not true because when you're inspecting that tank, insist that it is pumped out properly so that you get the right information. Letter B, septic tank material. Is the tank made out of concrete, fiberglass, or plastic? Those are the 3 that we see here. Most often it will be concrete or plastic. There are a few fiberglass. Most of them will need to be replaced if you end up at that because fiberglass in the desert was no bueno idea. Letter C, liquid level inside of the septic tank. Was it normal, below normal, or above normal? Normal would indicate that it's functioning properly. Below normal would indicate that perhaps there is a crack or a leak somewhere inside of the tank, and above normal would mean it's not leaching to the disposal field properly, or there's a clog somewhere. Letter D, access openings into the septic tank. Is there 1, 2, or even more than that, depending upon the size of the tank? If you are pre like 1990, mid 90s, you probably have a 1 compartment tank. This one was built in 1993 and it does have a 2 compartment tank. Those became more common between like 1996, 2000 area in there. But this one does have a 2 compartment tank, which is great. The 2 compartment tank is fantastic. You can see photos of this on our septic tank pumping page because it keeps more of the solid waste at the front, the inlet side of the tank instead of the outlet side of the tank, which helps preserve your disposal field even further. So this one has 2 access openings. Now, when we talk about access openings, we're talking about the 18-inch to 24-inch manhole lids, not these little wussy inspection port 4-inch things, because you don't pump out of those. You look in your tank to make sure that there's nothing hung up on your baffles. That's not a pumping port. Even if you have those suckers piped up clear huge and your tank is super deep and someone put that in there for you and said, oh, this is where you pump the tank, they scammed you. Straight up scam. Because I want you to think about this, like when you're enjoying a wonderful Slurpee from 7-Eleven and you suck all the juice out of it, and then there's all the slushy that's still left around there. If you've got a little tiny opening with your straw, can you mix that all up, or are you going to end up with just ice in there? Yeah. But if you have the actual 7-Eleven cup where you can get the big lid and you can like swish it up really good, then you can like get the juice flowing and get everything in there, and then you can suck everything out of that cup. That is exactly how a septic tank works. I know that is a disgusting way of explaining that to you, but that's how it works. So you want to always, always, always pump from the 18, 24-inch manhole lids. If someone is pumping from those little 4 or 6-inch pipes that are coming out of the top of your tank, they're sucking the water out of the tank. You might as well just keep your money, because the purpose of pumping the septic tank is to get all the solids out of the tank. That cannot be done through those little inspection ports. So word of the wise, don't allow that to happen. Make them dig down to it. We always dig down to it. Number of compartments in a septic tank. This one has 2, like I said, 1 or 2. Depth of soil over tank or access riser. So here's the ground and here's the tank. How much is in between it? So this tank is 42 inches deep. Does it have septic tank risers? A riser means that it has a tube on it, concrete or plastic, that brings that 18 or 24-inch lid opening to grade. And then it has a lid, so you can see the lid on it, or it's just below the surface, because sometimes people don't like the looks of them. I think that's silly, because you can landscape over top of them with something, and then you don't have to pay to have somebody dig it up, but to each their own. That's what the septic tank risers are. When we say that there are no risers on there, that means we don't count those 4 and 6 inch inspection port things that people put on the tank. Those are not risers. Okay, we're talking big risers that you can actually pump out of. Okay, letter H is capacity of the septic tank, 1,000 gallons. Scum sludge measured before the pumping. Tank depth. How deep is this tank? So from the top of the tank lid to the bottom of the tank, how deep is it? Most 1,000-gallon tanks are about 4 feet 6 inches. Primary chamber, secondary chamber. Now this is talking about the scum sludge measurement. So in order for you to understand this, a septic system develops 3 different layers inside of the tank. There's a scum layer, the water level, or the water layer, which is called the effluent, and then you have the sludge in the bottom of the tank. It naturally separates based upon what it is. Greases, shampoos, oils, stuff like that, they float on water, right? It's like when salad dressing separates, right? The solids go to the bottom. Like if you ever have like the Olive Garden dressing and you have to shake it up every time because all the spices are at the bottom, right? And the oil is at the top, and then you have all of the liquid in the middle. That's how this works, okay? So the scum depth is 2 inches on top in the primary chamber. So there's a baffle wall, it's this inlet side. And then the sludge was 6 inches. In the secondary chamber, you should always have less than your primary chamber, because you have that baffle wall in there. Now, if you just have one compartment, you'll only have measurements here for the primary chamber, okay? This tank looks really good. It must have been pumped out within the last 3 to 4 years. That looks excellent. J is baffle or sanitary team material, a baffle. That's what it is. So a septic tank line comes into the tank, and then there's a little thing that pushes the waste down into the water level, because if it just came straight in at the tank, you would end up getting a whole bunch of clogs on this, okay? So the baffle is a very important part of the septic system, because it pushes all the waste into the water level where it can naturally separate. That is why if your tank is missing baffles, it will be considered not functional. It's a very important part. I know it seems silly, but it's a huge important part, so you don't end up getting a whole bunch of clogs and backups. They can be made out of precast concrete, meaning that they were built into those older tanks, or plastic is what we see here. And those are the newer ones, as this one has. Letter K is the condition of the baffles. Are they functional, not functional, not there, or you couldn't tell? This should never, ever be checked, because if you're opening that tank up properly, you should be able to determine it. That's how I feel about that. Inlet baffle, functional. Outlet baffle, functional. Interior baffle was functional in this one. Is there evidence of leakage into the tank? Infiltration. So are there roots coming in? That's typically what the infiltration is that we see. Letter M, is there evidence of leakage out of the tank? Is there a crack in the tank? And so it's leaking. This one is no and no. Again, this could not be determined. Shouldn't even be an option on here, because if it's opened up properly, you can determine both of these. Letter N, is there evidence of root invasion, cracks in the tank, damaged lid and risers, or other? I added this to the inspection report, no issues, because it didn't give you an opportunity to do that, and there were no issues on this system, which happens often. Letter O is a sewer line cleanout present between the building, drain, and the septic tank. So you have a line, here's your house, and you have a line that comes out to your septic tank, okay? Sometimes this line here will have little 3 or 4 inch round cleanouts. They look like they have a square on top of them. You may see them. They're typically black or white. You may have one of them. You may have 2 of them. You may have a couple sets of them, but that's what it is asking for here. Are those inspection ports present for that sewer line that connects the house to the septic tank? Sometimes they're buried. They're there, but they're buried by landscaping. We do our best to try to find them. This one had sewer line cleanouts. Letter P, effluent filter. This one did not have one. These became more popular towards like the 2000s era. It's a filter that sits inside of your outlet baffle that further protects your disposal field from getting that solid waste if there is stuff that seeps over into that second compartment. If you have questions or you want to see photos of what this is, visit our septic tank pumping page. There's lots of before and afters, and it explains how it all works. Repairs or maintenance done to the septic tank as part of the inspection? No. So it's asking, did you repair anything on the tank while you were out there? Most of the time that will be no. Again, now this page, number 9 is disposal works. So this is talking about your disposal field, your leach field, your seepage pit, it has a whole bunch of different words for it. Disposal field is the general category of what this is, okay? It can be, now in letter A, it's asking you, what is the disposal field? Is it a trench? Is it a bed? Is it chamber technology? Is it a seepage pit? Or do you not know, or is it an alternative system? This one has a seepage pit. If you have questions, first of all, of what these are and what they look like, go to our septic installation page on our website and you can see what all of this is. If you have any further questions, always you can call our office too. This one, I added a little something extra on here so that everybody would know what they have. Great, you have a seepage pit, but how big is it and all that stuff. So the permit states that there's a 3 foot in diameter, so 3 feet wide pit that has been drilled in the ground, okay? And it has an overall depth of 59 feet and a effective depth of 54 feet. So it's 59 feet to here, 54 feet from here. The effective depth is where the sewer line that comes out of the back of the septic tank connects to that seepage pit, okay? So effective overall, that's the difference of those. Is there evidence of disposal works malfunction? This one seemed to be functioning just great. Now we do a 25-minute water flow test to the disposal field to make sure it's taking on water the way that it should. If it starts backing up, and all inspectors will do that here. If there is evidence of a backup, you will typically see this one, not the bottom one, this one checked, okay? Impaired hydraulic capacity is a really fancy word for it's backing up. It's not taking water, okay? That's the one you'll typically see. Letter number C, any structural or drainage problems. If there's roots in it, you'll typically see that. If it's a leach bed, you may see some surface settling. So like if it is like caving in or something like that, you would check this box. D is diversion valve or distribution box. Most systems in Arizona do not have diversion valves. That means that you can turn on one part of the disposal field and then turn it off at other times. But a distribution box is very common. So if you have more than one leach line chamber or seepage pit, it is connected by a distribution box. Sorry, we call them junction boxes too. You may see something that says J box or junction box, distribution box. They're all the same thing, okay? But it is, so the sewer line comes, you have your tank, and then a sewer line comes out of the back of the tank, and then it goes to a little D box, distribution box, and then those seepage pits are connected with 2 sewer lines, and they come out this way, okay? And then the seepage pits go down this way. That is what this thing is for. If it's flowing fine, leave it alone. You shouldn't be digging up all of this stuff all the time anyways. However, if it's not flowing properly, then this is a great place to check first before you just say the disposal field isn't working, because lots of times these are deteriorated or crushed or misaligned or something. That can be a simple fix. Letter E, are inspection ports present in the disposal work? So if you have a seepage pit, trench, or chambers, is there a pipe at the end of that that you can look down in it and see if there's any water in it? Most of the time they don't have those. Newer ones are required to have those per inspection, but I'll tell you what, most of the time people cut them off and bury them when they do their landscaping. So if you have them, keep them. They're very important. But if you don't, you don't. Down here, it's just asking if you do have those ports, how deep is it to the bottom of the port, and is there any water that is being held inside of it? Letter F is a reserved disposal field available? What this means is if this leach field or these trenches or this seepage pit fails and I have to put a new one in, is there room on the property for me to do that with proper setbacks? Okay. Most of the time there is. Sometimes, like in cities of Mesa, like Dreamland Villa area in Arizona, that the properties are so tiny. They're like 7,500 square feet and they're all on septic systems and they're landlocked. And so sometimes the disposal field area, you have to move stuff around to the front of the house in order to actually put in a new seepage pit for that property. It doesn't have room to do a bed style or trench style disposal field. But everything that was permitted should have been permitted with a reserve area designated. So if you are building, you want to make sure that you know where that reserve field is located at so that you don't build on top of it. And then letter G is repairs or other maintenance done to the disposal works. Just like it was on the tank page, did you do anything to repair something while you were out there? And we did not. Number 10 talks about all the alternative components of alternative systems. Now, you may hear this called alternative, you may hear it called advanced treatment, you may hear it called an ADEQ system. A conventional system is a system that is a gravity-fed system. So the house is here, the sewer line goes downhill, hits the septic tank, goes to the disposal field, then it's going down. Like the old adage, shit rolls downhill. That's a conventional septic system, okay? There's no mechanical components to most septic systems. There's nothing fancy that makes it work. It's all organic. It's just that it works on its own, okay? Alternative ADEQ advanced treatment, they have other components inside of these systems, and there's so many of them, we could go on for days and days. So sometimes the water has to be clean before it goes to the disposal field. Sometimes they have to have a disposal field that has cleaning components in it. Sometimes you use the water, instead of going to a disposal field, you use it, you use your septic system and then it gets cleaned and then you use it to water your plants. I mean, there's tons of different things that is all inclusive in this area here. So we're just going to skip through that because we don't have any of that stuff. Number 11, other comments. This should always have a comment section. Now, I know on the original report that is generated by ADEQ, this area is about this big, which is so silly because they're just asking for you not to leave it. I have modified this report so we have more room to put stuff in here. The system is functioning at the time of the inspection. The septic tank was pumped as part of the inspection. The disposal field is functioning at the time of inspection. A 25-minute water test was performed as part of the inspection. We recommend the tank to be pumped every 2 to 3 years for proper maintenance. This is a great narrative that tells you we pumped the tank, we did the water test, it's functioning, pump it again in 2 to 3 years, okay? This is a functioning system. That's the way that it should look. Fantastic. If there are any issues with it, that should also be indicated up here, okay? Or what you did as the technician to complete the inspection if there were issues, okay? This is typically the area right here, number 12, that everybody flips through and forgets the entire report and gets to this area and then they don't understand. So I'm going to take a minute and slow down right here. Number 12, based upon the wastewater addendum, they say it should be functional, functional with concerns, or not functional, and that determines who's responsible for fixing what needs to be fixed if there is something that needs to be fixed. Functional, great, everybody's happy, the seller paid for the inspection, and we're on to bigger and better things. However, if it is functional with concerns, based upon the new wastewater addendum that was made a couple of years ago, that now it's up for negotiation as to who has to pay for what if there's something wrong, okay? Not functional means there is a specific thing that is not working on this system, which could be the septic tank, which could be the disposal field, which could be the sewer line between the septic tank and the disposal field. It could be cracked lids. It could be cracked tank. It could be root invasion. It could be that the system's just trashed. There's a lot of different things that can get you to this point. Not functional, if it's checked not functional per the wastewater addendum, the seller has the responsibility up to 1% of the purchase price to pay for those repairs. After that, it's negotiable in Arizona. Functional with concerns means nobody has to pay for anything and it's negotiable. I'll be real honest with you, as an owner of a pumping company, functional with concerns, the only thing for me that I would ever check that on is if a system is more than 40 years old, it's functioning, but you need to be concerned that you're on borrowed time, because septic systems should work for 30 to 40 years, typically out here in the desert. Depending on how the system is taken care of, it could be that the tank is corroded and you have to replace that, or that the disposal field is just taking so much water it's oversaturated, or there's extra waste that has went in there due to lack of pumping and it needs to be replaced. More often than not, we see disposal fields go out first because they become oversaturated. But if you never open up your septic tank and pump it properly, the gases that build up inside of there will corrode the tank and you will have to replace that too. That is why maintenance is so very important on these systems. So honestly, most of our inspections they're functional or they're not functional. The only functional with concerns is due to the age of the system for me. That makes things a lot easier on the sales transaction side of things. This does not mean because I can flush the toilet in the house and the tank is falling apart, it's functional with concerns. No, no, no. That tank needs to be replaced. That is the ownership of the seller of the property, and he or she needs to be responsible for replacing that septic tank, because you don't want to sell a house with a shitty tank to somebody else. This is why a thorough inspection is so important, so very important. I can't tell you how many times we get phone calls that come back. They've lived in the house for 6 months. They got a backup. They called somebody and this tank is just completely falling apart. Well, they couldn't tell that if they inspected it through that little inspection port. So make sure you're digging down to the tank. This is so important. I can't stress it enough. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox now. Okay, letter B is repairs that were made as part of this inspection. If we go out to do an inspection and say the lids are damaged and we go back and we put risers on it and the seller pays for all this stuff and it's all, yay, we're good. Then we'll put in there, we installed, lids were broken, we installed risers, they are now up to grade, blah, blah, blah. C, repairs that are recommended. So if it's not functional, we'll tell you what needs to be done. Then number 13 is inspector certification. They need to be signed off on here. Then page 7 should most definitely have a map. Okay. I know this says that it's optional, and that is to great detriment that the county keeps that on there because, or ADEQ, because this helps so much, especially if it is a system that doesn't have any septic records prior to. So our guys will draw out with measurements how far away things are from the house. So like on the inspection report, it said it was 11 feet out. We've clocked that at 12 feet out. So this one was actually really good. It was pretty close, but it just identifies, sometimes people have a hard time with north arrows and directions. So we try to draw in landmarks too on our map so people will understand where that system is located at. And that completes the report of inspection. You will see 2 more pages when we send our inspection reports, because this is the notice of transfer of ownership. We fill this out for you as much as we possibly can based upon the information we have from the inspection, because after all, that is what it's asking, most of it. So here's the address. Here is the seller of the house. We don't know who the buyer is, so the title company will typically fill this in. Here's the inspector's info. When was the system put in the ground? Is it conventional or is it alternative? And now you know the difference between those two. Number 7 is inspection information. When was it done? What are the gallons per day? See, that number popped up again. Were there septic records for the property? Yes, there were, and we filled that in for you. How many septic tanks are in use on this property? There's 1. And then was the septic tank pumped as part of the inspection? And then it asked, were repairs made as part of this inspection? Notice how the notice of transfer doesn't ask if it's functional or not functional. That's why you need to pay attention to the entire septic inspection report, because if you just get this thing, you have no idea if it's functioning or not. Okay. We do get asked often, can we still do a notice of transfer if this system is stating that it's not functional? The answer to that is absolutely, because as you can see on this report that you have to fill out, it doesn't even ask you that question. Okay, that's typically held up if the buyer has a lender. The lender will want to see that entire 7-page report. And if it's not functional, they're not going to give you a loan on a house that doesn't have functioning wastewater system. If it's a cash deal and you're planning on plowing this sucker down and you're going to build something huge and all this stuff, and the system is shot there, oh, why would you do anything with it? Just, you plow the house and call us and we'll abandon the system and install a new one for you. Okay. So that's how that works. If you're buying a kind of a flipper or just a rundown, sometimes people will buy properties that have trailers on them just for the property. They're going to move the trailer. You don't have to fix the system before you do that. Letter 8 is all the information about the property transfer. So this will be done and completed by the escrow company. This is typically why they take care of this. And this can be filed online. Like I said, it states that it's the buyer's responsibility to pay that $50 fee. We file nothing with the county, ADEQ, or the state, nothing. We just send all the stuff to you guys. And then when you file this notice of transfer, or your title company does, then this transfer will show up in the septic records available online. And you can see those if you go to our inspection page and click on the Maricopa County line. Now, if you're in Pinell County, these are not public record on the internet. However, you can submit a public record request and they will email them to you if you would like to see if a property has septic records. So that is an overview of the entire ADEQ report of inspection / septic inspection / septic certification. I hope that you learned some good things today. And like I said, we are here all the time. We give out advice. We read other people's reports. We are a full service, one-stop septic shop, which means from pumping to inspections to repairs or full installation for new or replacement systems. Priority Pumping can do everything for you. So we are over here just super excited to be able to help you. My mission with this business is to educate people on what they actually have, what they're paying for with these inspections, and making sure that they're getting a good, honest service from good, honest technicians that have been trained properly to do the inspection that you need to sell your home. And so that the buyer and the seller can have confidence that they've done the right thing when it comes to the septic systems. So I appreciate your time today. Check out any of our other videos. If you have any other questions about things, don't hesitate to give us a call. Thanks.